What's going on, everybody? It's AfroDJMac. Got another new free Ableton Live Pack for you. Today I've got two different bass sounds. They're meant to be really dirty, nasty, distorted sounding basses. So let me take you through these real quick. The first one here is what I'm calling Jeremy bass. It's named after Jeremy from my Berkeley course. He had asked me to produce a nice distorted, nasty sounding bass, and this is what we came up with. It consists of really two different levels, and we're going to take a look. We'll open this up. It's made with the operator, and there are a few oscillators here. You'll notice the algorithm is set up so that the A channel, or the A oscillator, will go through unaffected, while the B oscillator will be modulated by C and D. And that's really important because what we've got here, I'm going to turn down the main level here for the main part of the synth, and what you'll hear is just this A oscillator, which is set to sine wave. And that's going to give us the real heavy bottom without kind of affecting the distorted top half of the bass. So that's the bottom, that's the A. I'm going to turn that down for a minute. You have control to mix these two sounds together. The next one is the main stuff. This is the main thing you hear, and we'll even turn down the amp and the chorus. And you'll notice in here on B, this is made primarily with a saw wave. And where it gets interesting is when I start adding in the FM oscillation from oscillator C. Oscillator C is made up of a square wave. And you can hear that sound sort of sweeping in. I'll make it a little more drastic. And oscillator C is raising in volume in accordance to this envelope. So over the time of about 1.5 seconds, it raises up, and you'll hear like the growl start to kick in, and then start to taper off for another 1.25 seconds. I like to keep it. I was happiest with this tone at about -20 or so, maybe even a little more. So you can hear the movement on that synth. Then we add an oscillator D. And oscillator D, if we take a look at it, is made up of another saw wave. And that just further dirties things up a bit. Because now, not only is our main oscillator B being affected by C, but C is being modulated by D, and we get quite a dirty sound. And I can raise in my sub-level to bring in that bottom end, which might be difficult to hear unless you're working with some speakers that can handle those low frequencies. So from there, we've got a filter. And that's just on the operator itself. It's a low-pass filter. We can adjust the resonance to get some really pretty gnarly sounds with that filter. From there, inside this rack, I've got the dynamic tube to just dirty things up a tad. It's a very subtle effect, but it does quite a lot for your sound. Next, we have the amp plugin. So Ableton's amp effect can really add some nasty distortion to your sounds here. And I'm really taking this pretty far out with that. I think even just a little bit is nice. And followed by that is a little effect rack I've made with the chorus and the bit crusher, or the Redux device. So we've got this particular device where we are only putting this effect on the higher frequencies. I'm splitting the frequencies using an EQ8. So on this one chain here, I've muted the lows and the mids, so only the highs are going through to all of these effects. And then on the low chain, I've muted just the highs, so the lows and the mids are going through the sound without being affected by all this bit crushing and stuff. So it gives us this extra dirtiness. And we have control over the chorus, which follows that back here on our rack. So I can add in chorus. to add a little extra space to it. So let me now just take you, I'm going to close this up, and I want to show you the next rack that I've got going on here, which is called the Carlos bass. The Carlos bass was inspired by another Berkeley student, Carlos, who was looking, again, for another dirty bass sound. And this is like kind of a similar idea, but just a different approach. So we've got, we'll turn down these other oscillators here, and we've got our sub level. And again, this one is made with the operator. So our sub, I'm going to turn down our amp too, because that's coloring the sound quite a bit. Our sub is once again just a sine wave. And we've got a different algorithm now. We've got the sub going through unimpeded on channel A, the sine wave. Channel B, we've got a noise, so we can add in some noise to this sound. We can adjust that to taste. And then main level is taken care of by oscillator C. Oscillator C is set to the saw wave, so let's just listen to that. Simple saw wave, much like the one we had in the last track. And I can modulate this by introducing oscillator D with the frequency mod level control. Got that mapped to this macro here. And that's another sine wave that's modulating oscillator C, excuse me. So we can, this is where a lot of the color of the sound is coming in through the main level and this frequency modulation. We add the bottom in using the sub level. We could add in a little bit of noise to taste. Again, we have a low pass filter. However, this time I've accomplished that using the EQ8. We've got control of the resonance. Get some pretty intense tones out of that, or something more subtle. And we're also going to be able to control the amp plugin again. The amp device adds us that nice distortion, and we can choose which kind of algorithm we want on the amplifier. I had it set to rock, but that is up to you. The amounts, you hear things get pretty nasty with the amplifier effect. And not only can these be used as bass sounds, but you can play chords on them as well. So there they are, two bass racks, the Jeremy bass and the Carlos bass. Thank you to Jeremy and Carlos from my Berkeley class. You guys are great students and very inspiring to work with you guys. And we've created some fun, nasty sounding basses, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you.